Hello, fellow food lovers. Today I will be making Chinese lion's head pork meatballs. You will need 1 pound of ground pork and half a pound of sui choy, also known as napa cabbage. For the seasoning, you will need 1 tablespoon oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon soy sauce, 1 teaspoon sugar, a dash of Chinese white pepper, half a cup of minced bamboo shoots, and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch mixed with 1/4 cup of water. For the braising liquid, you will need 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of chicken powder, 2 green onion, 2 pieces garlic, 1 large piece of ginger, and 6 tablespoons of Chinese cooking wine. For the sauce, you will need 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, 1 teaspoon of chicken powder, 1 tablespoon of minced ginger, and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. Okay, so this is sui choy. It's also known as napa cabbage. So generally when you get one from the supermarket, you want to tear off the outer 3 or 4 leaves and just throw that away because it's considered kind of dirty. So we're going to need about half a pound of leaves, and this is going to form the bottom of the dish. It's going to be braised in liquid until it's cooked, and then line the bottom of the serving dish. Okay, so I got half a pound of the napa cabbage here. I'm going to cut the bottom part off where it's torn, just to make it look nicer. Then I'm going to cut each leaf into about 3 to 4 pieces. So the white part, the harder part, would be cut into smaller pieces, but the upper part, the leafy part, it could be a bigger piece, just like that. So cut it into 3 pieces each, basically, each leaf. So I'm giving it a quick rinse, just make sure it's all clean. Okay, I got 2 bamboo shoots there. I'm going to cut them into little small pieces into a kind of a coarse mince, I guess. So I cut it lengthwise into a number of pieces, and then I cut it diagonally from there into little pieces. And then I give that a kind of coarse chop. You want the pieces to be maybe the size of a pea, maybe a little smaller than that. Okay, so I got about a pound, maybe even a pound and a half of ground pork. So I'm going to put a tablespoon of oyster sauce in there. Tablespoon of soy sauce. Teaspoon of sugar, dash of Chinese white pepper powder. I'm going to add the minced bamboo shoots. So the bamboo shoots I use, it comes frozen and it's already cleaned and ready to use basically. So I'm going to actually transfer it to a larger bowl so it's easier to mix. So I'm going to use my fingers. I'm going to kind of mix the sauce into the meat and mix the bamboo shoots into the meat as well. So I'm kind of just doing a coarse mix right now. To finish it off, I'm going to actually use chopsticks. I'm going to rotate the chopsticks in the meat mixture in one direction only. So I'm just going to go clockwise, just so I can align the muscle fibers and make it into a nicer texture to eat. Okay, so I'm going to make a cornstarch slurry. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of cornstarch into a bowl. Don't add this directly into the meat. You want to mix it with water first. And then I'm going to add 1/4 of a cup of water to the cornstarch. I'm going to give it a stir, make sure it's all dissolved. All the cornstarch is dissolved into the water. And then I'm going to add that to the meat mixture. I'm going to slowly pour it in as I'm mashing the meat with my fingers so that the cornstarch slurry can mix into the meat evenly. Okay, so I grabbed a pair of chopsticks. I'm actually spinning them around in a clockwise direction. So I'm getting the muscle fibers in the meat to kind of align it in one direction. And this is to help to make the meat texture more pleasing to eat. Okay, I'm going to transfer that onto the cutting board. And with the amount of meat I have now, I can probably make 6 good-sized meatballs. Okay, so these meatballs are going to be braised, but first they're going to be deep fried first, just to kind of set the outside texture right. So they're not soft on the outside, they're kind of firm on the outside before you put them in braising liquid. Okay, so I'm getting the aromatics ready for the braising liquid. So I got 2 pieces of garlic. I'm going to smash them. I'm not going to mince them. I'm just going to leave them as is because it's just going to flavor the liquid basically. I've got 2 green onions. I'm going to give them a quick wash. I'm going to cut the roots off. And now I'm just going to cut it in half and just throw it into the braising liquid like that. So I got a big chunk of ginger there. I'm going to actually cut it into 2 to 3 big slices. And that's for the braising liquid. I set aside a little piece of ginger I'm going to actually use to make the sauce with at the end. So that little piece of ginger, I'm going to take the skin off. And then I'm going to mince it really finely. Okay, let's get cooking. So I got the wok. It's about half filled with cooking oil. It's on high heat. It's been on high heat for about 5 minutes now. So to test it, to see if it's hot enough for deep frying, I take a wooden chopstick and I dip it in the oil. And if it bubbles, then it's ready for deep frying. Okay, I got the 6 meatballs there. Just because there's so much oil in there, I'm just gonna drop in 3 meatballs and then fry those until they're kind of a darker brown color. And then I'm going to do the other 3 later. So I'm going to do 2 batches of frying the meatballs. So you might want to deep fry it on one side for about 2-3 minutes. And then turn it over so that the top side faces down and deep fry for another 2-3 minutes. And then the meatballs should be done. So basically you're cooking the outside of the meatball, but the inside will be raw. So basically you're going to finish this off in a braising liquid, basically. That's to cook the inside of it. Okay, so you notice the meatballs have turned kind of a darker brown. So they're ready to take out. So I have a plate that's lined with paper towels. I'm going to fish those meatballs out and let them drain on the paper towel. And I'm going to put the next 3 meatballs in. So you notice that the top of the meatball is kind of sticking above the oil. So that's why you want to make sure you turn it over at half time. So fry for 3 minutes and then turn it over so the top is facing down. So you're looking at maybe 5 to 6 minutes total frying time for the meatballs. Okay, so I took the first 3 out, and the second batch is frying now. And they look pretty much done too, so I'm going to take those out. So notice they got a nice darker brown color when I took them out, but they're still raw inside, so you need to finish them off. Okay, so I emptied the oil into a container that I use for when I deep fry in the wok. So I don't throw that oil out. I wash the wok, it's on high heat. I'm going to add about 6 or 7 cups of water. I'm going to use that water for braising the napa cabbage and then the meatballs. So you want to fill the wok maybe a little more than half full of water, basically. So for this wok, about 6 to 7 cups is good. Okay, so you want to bring that water up to a boil, and then we're going to season the water. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, a tablespoon of chicken powder, and 6 tablespoons of Chinese cooking wine. And we're going to add aromatics now. So I'm going to add the long stalks of green onion, the ginger, and the garlic. So once that comes to a boil, I'm going to add the napa cabbage. So that should take 3, maybe 4 minutes to cook. You want to let it boil for about two minutes, and then you want to turn it over so the top leaves go down to the bottom, and they can cook too. Okay, so it's been boiling for about 4 minutes now. The leaves have definitely shrunk. They're cooked. So I'm going to use tongs. I'm going to fish the leaves out. And I'm going to make sure I leave the green onion, the garlic, and the ginger behind. So I'm just taking out the napa cabbage only. And I'm going to place it on the serving dish. Okay, so I'm gonna drain the liquid that came out with the napa cabbage, because you want it to be as dry as possible so the sauce can flavor the leaves of the cabbage. Okay. Okay, so we'll let that liquid come to a boil again, and then we're gonna add the meatballs to it. I'm gonna add all 6 of the meatballs. So I'm going to braise those from anywhere from a half an hour, say, on high heat, or if you want to cook on medium heat, it could be like 45 minutes to an hour. But I'm going to cook on high heat. So on high heat, it's going to be a rapid boil, and the meatballs should cook within half an hour. If you prefer a slow braise, like on medium heat, you want to bring it up to the boil, add the meatballs, turn the heat down to medium, and you can let it braise for an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. But when you're braising it, keep an eye on it. Make sure the liquid doesn't get too low. If the liquid starts to go low, add another cup or 2 of water as needed. You want the braising liquid to be filling up half the wok at least at all times. Okay, so the meatballs have been boiling on high heat for about half an hour, so they're done. So I'm going to fish them out. Okay, I'm going to dump that liquid now. Yeah, there you go. 6 big meatballs. Okay, I'm going to dump this liquid now. I'm going to wash the wok, and I'm going to make the sauce. So you can't use a braising liquid. It basically goes down the drain. So I dumped the liquid, the braising liquid. I washed the wok. It's on high heat. So I added 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. I'm going to add the ginger to that. So I'm going to stir the ginger around in the oil. Make sure that the ginger infuses flavor into the oil. So maybe 30 seconds at most. You don't want to cook it. You don't want to fry the ginger too long; it'll burn, and you don't want that. Okay, give that a stir. And I'm going to add a cup of water to that to make the sauce. Then I'm going to add the seasoning. So I'm going to add a tablespoon of oyster sauce, a tablespoon of soy sauce, a teaspoon of sesame oil, and a teaspoon of chicken powder. So let that sauce come up to a boil. Okay, so we're going to make the cornstarch slurry now. So I'm going to take 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, put into a bowl. I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of water to that. So it's a 1/4 cup of water to the cornstarch. Give that a stir, make sure that the cornstarch is dissolved in the water. And then I'm going to add that cornstarch slurry to the sauce. Give that a stir, make sure that the cornstarch is well mixed into the sauce. And then when it comes to a boil, you can turn the heat off. And then you're going to sauce the meatballs and the napa cabbage now. So you're going to pour a ladle over each meatball. And you can pour the rest of the sauce over the napa cabbage. So there you have it. That's Chinese lion's head meatballs. They're not made from lions, but the meatballs look like the head of a lion, I think. Yeah, there you go. Lion's head meatballs. And they're a very popular northern Chinese banquet dish. Say at weddings or state functions in China, you usually see these served at tables. So with a napa cabbage infused with a sauce, and it goes really nice with the rice. And the meatballs go well with the rice too. And if you like really tender meatballs, you can use a regular grind of ground pork that's kind of fatty, like that. Or you can use lean as well. Bon appetit.